This church behind me is secretly a cult by the name of Iglesia Ni Cristo, and tomorrow morning I'm gonna come here and infiltrate it to see what's actually going on. Yeah, I'm okay. Alright, first let me explain why and how I'm even doing all this. Alright, so around a year ago, I ended up getting in a car accident in this super rural town in Texas called Blue Ridge. And when the police officer got there, he told me that I shouldn't be standing on the side of the road like that because the people in the town are crazy. And he even told me that someone actually was found dead on the side of the road on the same highway I was on. So I was like, okay, weird. And I asked him why that is. Like, why is everyone so crazy here? And he said that most of the town, since it's such a small town of like 800 people, most of them are actually in this cult. And I was like, what cult? And he was like, I don't know exactly. So another night I came back to look around the town and I found one interesting thing. It was a church by the name Iglesia Ni Cristo, but there was no cross or anything. And so I Googled it, which was a huge mistake. First of all, why do they have a section for leaders? Only cults have leaders. And then next up was a huge Reddit thread about a bunch of ex-members talking about how they've been forced to do things and that they were told if they ever did anything even slightly off that they'd get exiled from the cult, as well as being told that they would need to be able to go out and kill if the leader said so. But that was just the tip of the iceberg, because there's people unaliving themselves, kidnappings, murders, and so much more that's allegedly happened within this cult. But the craziest of them all, which is actually kind of scary for me, there's this guy who was supposed to debate them about religion and stuff, and somehow a week before they were supposed to debate, he just disappears. He's just dead. He's unalived. Like, okay, you can say what you want, but we all know what happened. And so I want to give a fair warning. I would never unalive myself in case something happens. I want y'all all to know that. So Sunday morning came and I woke up early. I'm so tired. I don't know if you guys could tell. Look at my eyes. They're black, bro. And the drive was absolutely excruciating. It was 2 hours away and every single road just looked so dangerous. And I was getting worried because if I got there and they just told me that I wasn't allowed in, I would have wasted all this time in planning for absolutely nothing. So we arrived there and I'm set up with these hidden camera glasses, and my friend also has them on, as well as we brought this little charger that has a camera in it so that we could stick it into one of their walls and try and spy on them later on. But before we could even make it inside of the place, we were greeted by a nice family that was just complimenting my car and asking if we were like new.
Yeah, first time.
Where are you from?
Frisco.
Oh, Frisco.
Yeah.
Once we walked in is when things got strange. See, everyone was pretty nice. We shook their hand, but then they asked who invited us. And usually, I mean, like, my friend goes to church. Most churches don't really require an invite. You can just go there if you want to and worship. But I guess they needed one. And luckily, thank the gods, someone else said, did Jeremy invite you?
Are you a friend of Jeremy?
And we just went along with it and said yes. As you can tell from my friend's face, it felt like we had just hit the most devious lick of the century. And it worked like a charm because we got in. And what they did was separate us. There's these things called brothers and sisters. So the guys would sit on one side and the girls would sit on the other. And as soon as we walked in, everything just looked like a normal church at first. There was a choir, a couple people standing by the podium, but everything was about to change really quick. First thing we noticed, they started singing songs, which is normal, but the songs were just about suffering and pain. Literally the whole time. Like, you can't make this up. They were talking about how you were gonna suffer and be in pain if you didn't obey over and over again. It was just extra. And I quickly found it really odd that throughout the entire church, the outside, the inside, there wasn't a single cross, even though they claimed to be the only church of Jesus Christ. And then I was thinking, like, why did they make it seem so invite only? Like, usually you're trying to spread the message of Jesus Christ and stuff in church, but these guys weren't trying to do that at all. So we just sit there and chill until we notice something a bit odd. Now, I don't know 100% if this is normal, but the guy at the podium just starts crying.
Strengthening our resolve. You're providing us the help that we need. You're even healing our illnesses. And more importantly, dear God, you're allowing us to remain in your holy.
He's like telling us about why we shouldn't drink alcohol, and he's just crying about, oh, our Savior, oh my God. And he's just falling out of control in tears. Like, you can't make this up. And I thought he's just bugging, right? But this is when things get super weird. Everybody in the church starts crying. I'm talking, everyone had a little handkerchief ready, and they were like, womp, womp, womp. Out of nowhere, But my friend was like, this is not normal. And I mean, it looked like everyone was pretending to do it. Like no one was actually crying. They were all just pretending to be sad for some reason. I don't know why. But they go on to give us a huge lecture about why we shouldn't drink alcohol, which I totally agree. You probably shouldn't do that. And I noticed that they were talking a lot about how you would suffer in pain and get exiled if you didn't follow the instructions.
That person will suffer second death where? In the lake of fire.
And a lot of this is low-key kind of cult behavior and what a lot of cults do with like their members to try and keep them in control. And they were talking about how they must obey and all this stuff. But this could just be a little extreme until they mentioned that they were praying and hoping for this guy called EVM, Eduardo V. Manalo, to have like greatness, right? And they were talking about how these ministers and all these higher-ups were appointed by God to run these churches. And it's just interesting that there's like a person and like a leader that's kind of being prayed for as well. And that's when we quickly realized that if we maybe try and befriend these guys and try and be nice to them and attend more events, just maybe we would actually be able to connect with the leader or a very higher up later on.
I'm trying to save you.
Now, this is when the next really weird thing happens, right? Usually at church, you can record, take photos. I tried to take one photo of the choir. You can't make this up. This guy in the back who's been watching us the whole time. I don't even realize that we've been being watched this whole time, but he's been watching us. He comes up to us and he's like, hey, excuse me, if you record one more time or take a photo of anything, we will have to kick you out. Don't you want to spread this? Like, don't you want other people to know? There's so much secrecy about it. And it's like, I was looking on Reddit and other people are talking about how it's so secretive, it's so sus, like why are they acting like this? And now I low-key understand, because I try and take one photo and I'm being threatened to be kicked out. Like I'm just trying to learn about y'all stuff, that which I found really odd. But even with all of this, I wasn't 100% sure it was a cult yet. So as the event slowly came to an end, and I even donated money, because you know, as much as some of the things might be weird, I don't believe that everyone there is just a horrible person and actually bad. So I donated, and as we started to leave, I knew I had to get further. So I started chatting up random people, and so did my friend, and we eventually connected with a couple of the members on Instagram and got to know them, shook hands with some of the ministers, just tried to be overall polite. And sure enough, by the grace of God, one of the people we talked to was actually trying to escape and get out of the cult and was willing to do an interview with us. Obviously, we had to keep a lot of this confidential, but it was nuts, and this was definitely going to help us get one step closer to eventually meeting the leader.
Nice to meet you. My name is Krishna.
My name is. Okay, wait, actually, can you blur that out?
Yeah. Is there like a reason, like, you usually, like, does everyone like kind of know each other or something?
Yeah, it's a pretty tight circle in the US. There's not a lot of few members.
Now let's get into some more interesting questions. Do you actually believe that this is a cult?
It usually depends on what you kind of consider is a cult, but everyone who's not in it would say it is.
Really? Do you have friends and stuff? Do you think it's...
Yeah.
You know it's bad when the person that goes to this church has all her friends thinking it is a cult as well. I found that a bit strange, and if you look on Reddit as well, people literally call this the IN cult, not even by its actual name. Now right here, I went for a big swing. I already knew the answer was going to be no, but I just wanted to, you know, ask something out of the water anyway.
Okay. Do you guys do sacrificial rituals? I know it's kind of far-fetched.
I mean, not that I know of.
Okay, so it's not that extreme.
And of course, I think this question put her off a bit, because she was like, not that I know of, which is not a good answer for a question where I'm asking if they sacrifice people.
What kind of happens if someone's caught, like, breaking the rules? You know, like, is there, like, some huge thing that happens? Is there, like, some way they kick them out?
They get stoned to death.
Are you serious?
No, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
That was like back in the day.
Okay, back in the day. So what kind of happens nowadays? Like if you do something wrong, like, you know?
You just get forcibly removed from the church.
Forcibly removed? What does forcibly removed mean? What?
You'd have to be in it to know.
Okay. Is there anything weird they've made you done?
It's just something that's kind of personal, so I'm not really like open about it.
Fair enough. What do you think makes people think it's a cult?
Well, we have a leader, and if you're not in this church, allegedly, you're going to hell.
Okay, so you guys believe you're the only church? Like that's not like something I've just read online?
Yep, the only one. If you're not in INC, you're pretty much like done.
When she said that, I could tell she still was low-key a devoted follower. And also, I want to mention 2 things. She's not the only one trying to escape. There's so many people in the subreddit trying to leave this place. I don't know why. Just kidding. I kind of know why. I would be trying to leave too. But another thing, I don't know if you guys remember that little camera I took with me, the charging camera, and stuck it into the wall. We're gonna go and grab it soon, and I think you guys are gonna find the footage really questionable. Well, is there any way you could bring us? Okay, I know this is a big stretch, you know. You try to stay private, and we're gonna respect the privacy. We're gonna blur your face, blur your name for you and everything. Is there any way you could get us to talk to one of the ministers? Anyway.
I think I can do that for you.
Really? And that was the final nail in the coffin. I was about to hit a huge devious lick here. I was gonna be able to meet one of the ministers, one of those guys in the suits, and actually talk to them and try and get to know them, hopefully, and that would put us one step closer to actually getting in touch with the leader. Now, even though we got the minister's number, we had an issue. Bro was ignoring me like a 5'2" absolute baddie. I'm talking, it took weeks to get a hold of this guy after so many calls and texts. He actually just thinks he's the president. But as of yesterday, we finally got something from him. He said he wanted to invite us to another church meeting, and he sends me coordinates for it. Who the sends coordinates when they want to meet up with you? Send me a goddamn address. Homie thinks we're playing Minecraft together. But I looked the coordinates up on Google Maps, and it's like in a neighborhood, so I'm like confused. But it gets worse because this is in Garland, Texas, which is pretty sus because Garland, Texas isn't known to be the most luxurious place in the world. And he said after we meet it up with him for the church event, he would eventually go and take us back to his house for a little dinner meal. And even though I generally don't like going to strangers' houses unless it's I'm just kidding, dude.